Hello, everyone. Hello, hi. Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me? I hope everyone can hear me and see me well. If you can, give me a hello and tell me where you're from. Who do we have today on our Cambly lesson? Let me know who we have today. All right. We have people from Turkey, Istanbul. Wonderful. That's great. Hello from Italy. Wonderful. Brazil. Excellent. Turkey. Great. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here again. From Japan. Hello. Excellent. Cambodia. Wonderful. Turkey. Hungary. Saudi Arabia. Hello. Azerbaijan. Hello. Hello from Hong Kong. All right. Hello from Istanbul. Lots of people from Turkey here today. It's excellent. Maybe because we're talking about coffee today. That's wonderful. All right. Hello, Brazil. Oh, this is great. We have people from all over the world today. That is wonderful. It's so great to be with you all today. Oh, it's wonderful. Hello from Shanghai. Excellent. Hello from Spain. Great, great. Can everyone see me well? Let's see. Make sure this is adjusted. Everyone can see me properly. All right. Hello from Israel. Hello from South Africa. Excellent. Oh, it's so great to see you all. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like my t-shirt. All right. Hello from the USA. All right. Italy. Excellent. Pakistan. Hello. Hello from Korea. All right. Excellent. I am happy for today's lesson as well. We'll wait another minute or two before we get started on our lesson. Today, we are going to take a step back from doing any kind of grammar. We're going to talk about coffee and oftentimes what kind of vocabulary we use and how to order coffee in the United States and Canada. I know coffee is a big tradition around the world, so we'll talk about that. To kick us off and get us started, though, do you prefer coffee or tea? Tell me whether you prefer coffee or tea. I'd like to know. Me, I am a big coffee drinker, but I like mine with some milk. So we'll talk more about that, but let's see what we have. We have tea, both, excellent. Coffee, some more teas, all right. Coffee for sure, excellent. Coffee, all right. Tea, prefer coffee, prefer tea. All right, so we're pretty mixed here. Some people like coffee, some people like tea. That's great. Soda, all right. That's good too. I like soda as well. All right. All right. Excellent. So we have lots of different types of preferences here between coffee and tea. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to talk a little bit about coffee today. So coffee is drank all around the world. Today, right now, let me introduce myself first. I don't think I've done that yet. I've been doing this for a while, but for those of you who do not know, my name is Teacher or Tutor Greg. I'm a tutor here on Cambly, and I love doing these live lessons. I love reaching out to a lot of different people, more than just one-on-one lessons. I am from the United States, and I have been a teacher for about 3 years. So it's great to see you all, and I'm excited for our lesson today. So if any of you have to leave early today, or you have any issues and need to log back on, all of these lessons, this lesson and all of our other Cambly lessons are going to be posted on our YouTube live channel. So you can go ahead and check those lessons later, or go ahead and rewatch it if there's some vocabulary that you're not sure of that you'd like to see again. Or if I'm talking too fast and you'd like it slowed down, you can go onto Cambly and you can slow it down via YouTube. So let's go ahead and start our lesson today. I'm going to talk a little bit slower now as we're going through this vocabulary. So let's start with coffee, okay? So coffee is drank all around the world. It's very popular. So for those of you who probably know, but just a little bit of a refresher, coffee is a red fruit, all right? So it comes as a red fruit, and then it makes beans. It has a nut in the center that we use to make beans. So that seed in the center is what we use to make our coffee when we roast it. So coffee began in the 13th century. That's when they began roasting it. The seed and the fruit has been eaten longer than that. But they started in the 13th century actually roasting the coffee. Now, with coffee, there is a lot of different debate as to where coffee came from, like who discovered coffee and who was the first to start roasting coffee and using it for its caffeine or potential. We'll talk more about that term later. But here in America, we often look at the popular story from Ethiopia. So I don't know if anyone here is from Ethiopia, but in America, we often talk about coffee being started in Ethiopia with the goat farmer who found that his goats were eating the beans and then they were having more energy. So he started eating them. So yes, the goats discovered coffee. That's a very popular origin story in America, what we often think of when we think of how was coffee started. So that's not the only story, but that's one that's very popular in the United States. So coffee, right? So a lot of you said you like coffee, and a lot of you said tea. Okay, so coffee is very popular throughout the entire world, and today, as we know, is International Coffee Day. Okay, today is International Coffee Day. So celebrated around the world is our love of coffee. So in popularity, coffee, there is 2.25 billion, that's billion with a B, cups of coffee drank in a day. So this is 1 cup of coffee, right? And 2.25 billion of them are drank every single day. So that's a lot of coffee that's drank. So particularly, coffee is very popular in the United States and in Canada. Both United States and Canada are top 10 in the world of coffee drinkers. So there's a lot of coffee drank. A lot of European countries drink coffee as well. I believe the #1 per capita. And if you've heard of the term per capita before, that means the amount of coffee drank based on the population, okay? So the population of America is very large. The population of Norway is much smaller. It's about 300 million people to about 5 million people. So it's a big difference. But Norway drinks the most coffee in the world per capita. So that's just a fun fact for everyone. But because of that, coffee has a very popular place in culture in America and in Canada. So in America and often in Canada, coffee is drank in the morning. Okay, so it's morning here where I am, so I have my cup of coffee. It's a very common thing to drink coffee in the morning. I am from the United States. So what time of day do you drink coffee? If you drink your coffee, do you drink it in the morning? Do you drink it in the afternoon? Or do you drink it in the evening? So when does everyone drink coffee? So I see some night times. And is it common where you're from to drink coffee outside of the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening? Okay, you can't drink it at night. Excellent. All right, but we have some people drink it in the evening. Some people drink it in the morning. Okay, excellent. 2 times in the morning, in the afternoon. Okay, great. In the morning, okay. Great. After lunch, okay. Excellent. No, you love tea. Well, that's good too. Tea is also very good. Okay, in the morning. All right, all the time. Great, all day. Excellent. So that's a part of our coffee culture when we drink our coffee. I know certain cultures have different coffee ceremonies they do as well. In the United States, there definitely is not much of a ceremony for coffee. The coffee is usually drank quickly or in the morning on the way to work. That happens very often. But let's talk about some of the places that we do drink coffee. So here in the United States, we drink coffee at a lot of places. We drink them at home, right? Oftentimes at home, because we usually make our coffee in the morning at home. So like this coffee was made here at home. We also have cafe and coffee shops, roasteries, chain stores, gas stations, and fast food restaurants. Okay, that's often where we drink most of our coffee. But let's talk about what these types of places are. Okay, so home, right? Home is usually just where you live. That's your home, and that is usually the most common place that people drink coffee. They go ahead, they make it at home. But let's talk about the different places, okay? So a cafe and a coffee shop. So in the United States, we use the term cafe or coffee shop interchangeably, okay? Meaning we use them at the same time. So you can say, I'm gonna go to the cafe, or you can say, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop, okay? That has the same meaning in the United States, and it's the same place that you're going to. So in these cafes and coffee shops, people will often work there, okay? People will work at the coffee shop on their laptop, or they will be reading a book, or it's very common to just relax or work or see friends at a cafe or a coffee shop. So they're designed, right, they're designed for you to sit for a while, okay? So they have couches there. They have very comfortable chairs. They sometimes have fireplaces. And all of those are the same thing. So there, usually at most coffee shops or cafes, there is free Wi-Fi. So there's free Wi-Fi, so you can go to the coffee shop and you can get on your online and you can do any kind of work, or you can study. Students will often study at cafes or coffee shops. Yeah, and it's often on the weekends. People often go on the weekends. So I see that there. Yeah, we go to coffee shops on the weekends oftentimes as well. But you can go during the day or during the weekday as well, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are very good. So, and it's common, right? It's common in the US to have a local coffee shop that you go to all the time. So a coffee shop that you'll go to with your friends very frequently. Sometimes they know your order, and they'll say hello to you or talk to you for a while with a barista. So that's our coffee shops here, and especially in large cities. So in the smaller cities, there's less, but in large cities, there's coffee shops everywhere. There's lots and lots of different coffee shops you can go to. So that's a coffee shop or a cafe. So if you come to America and you say, I want to go to a cafe, they would point you in the same direction as if you say, I want to go to a coffee shop. So yes, Starbucks is famous, and we'll talk about Starbucks in a second. Good question. So yes, Starbucks is one of the most famous coffee shops in America. So a coffee shop or a cafe, right? They're a little bit different than a roastery. So coffee is what we call in America, we use the term roasted. The coffee is roasted. The seeds themselves are roasted to make the beans. So for example, these, if you can see that there, these are coffee beans. These are whole coffee beans. And to make them this color, this dark color that actually gives us the delicious coffee that we enjoy, is roasted. Okay, so it's roasted. So at a roastery, right, these are similar to a coffee shop or a cafe, but the coffee beans are actually roasted at this location. So the coffee in a coffee shop or a cafe, they provide, right, they give you the coffee, but they don't roast the coffee themselves. But a roastery, they will sell coffee for you. You can hang out with your friends, things like that. You can that coffee is roasted in that place. So the coffee is usually a little bit more expensive, but it's very delicious coffee there, right? It's fresh, it's nice, fresh coffee there. Okay. These roasteries, right? They are gaining in popularity. There's a lot more roasteries everywhere around the United States because roasting coffee has become a lot more popular. People want, rather than drinking a very standard coffee, people want a new, fresh type of coffee. Yes, the smell of coffee is wonderful. So that's a roastery, right? It's similar to a coffee shop or a cafe, but they roast the beans on site where they are. That's a roastery. Very good. Okay, so next we'll talk about a chain store. So if anyone's ever heard of a chain store before, that is a store that has multiple locations throughout the country. Multiple locations throughout the country is a chain store. So Starbucks, right? Starbucks is a chain store. So some of you were talking about Starbucks. That's a chain store. They also are considered a coffee shop, but they're also a chain store, okay? Dunkin' Donuts. Have anyone ever heard of Dunkin' Donuts? That's another chain store coffee shop. Then another big one is Seattle's Best, right? Seattle's Best is a very large coffee shop in the United States. If anyone's ever heard of Tim Hortons, that is a very popular chain store in Canada. So these brands, right? These brands are all chain stores. They have lots of locations everywhere. Starbucks has hundreds of locations. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Okay, so that's what a chain store is. So additionally, right? People don't sit very often at a chain store restaurant. They will go ahead and get the coffee and then they will leave, or they'll drink it quickly and go. Not like a cafe or a coffee shop where you're sitting for a long time with friends. You're usually grabbing it and leaving quickly, okay? And then there's the same product at every store. So a coffee shop or a cafe might have something different to offer, but at a chain store, they have the same coffee at every store. And I know Starbucks does lots of teas as well. For those of you who don't like coffee, Starbucks does a lot of teas, and so do all of these cafes, right? All of these cafes will offer both coffee and tea. It's very rare that they only offer coffee, okay? And next, let's talk about gas stations. So if any of you have been to a gas station before, right? This is usually very cheap coffee. So gas stations offer coffee often for people on the road or that are driving on long road trips or on the way to work if you want some quick coffee, right? They only offer coffee at gas stations. They don't often offer espresso, right? No espresso, just what we call drip coffee. And we'll talk about that in a second, but that's the only offering they provide there. So usually you only drink it just for the caffeine, right? So the usually gas station coffee is not as tasty, doesn't taste as good as a cafe or a roastery or a Starbucks or anything like that. The coffee is usually quick and out the door, as they say. Okay, so that's a gas station coffee. Do you have gas station coffees where you're from? Do the gas stations where you pump your gas and usually grab some snacks or things from the gas station? Do they serve coffee where you're from as well? Yes, Tully's is also a very popular chain restaurant here in the United States as well. All right, excellent. Oh, they have gas station coffee in Turkey. That's great. Is it good coffee? Hopefully it's tasty coffee. I'm drinking some more coffee myself. All right. And then lastly, one very popular place for coffee that you might not expect is fast food restaurants like McDonald's or Burger King, right? They also have coffee and they often serve a lot of coffee. So they serve it often with their breakfast. They often serve it with breakfast, and it is usually very cheap. So they'll serve this coffee usually just between like, 6 in the morning and noon. And then sometimes they won't serve coffee anymore. But sometimes you can get it later. It just depends. So that is what they will allow you to do. So you can use this coffee, or you can drink this coffee, right? Usually when you're on road trips, or if you have your different fast food restaurant meal, you can have coffee with that. So, and this lesson will end usually in about 20 minutes or so. So, but you can go back and watch some of this later if you'd like to. Okay, so those are the different places that we drink coffee, right? We drink it at home, we drink it in cafe or coffee shops, we drink it in roasteries, our chain stores. Basically, we serve coffee almost everywhere in the United States because it's so popular and people are always drinking it. But let's talk about some of our common vocabulary that goes along with coffee. So the common way to make coffee at home is called drip coffee, right? Drip coffee because we put it in a filter and it drips down into what we call a pot. Excuse me. So a coffee, right? So a filter looks something like this, right? So we'll sit this on top of our pot. We'll put our coffee inside and we'll let our hot water run down. And that's called drip coffee, okay? That's drip coffee. So we need our two vocabulary words there are filter, that's this, that we put the coffee in, and pot, where we put or what holds the coffee. That's called a coffee pot. So that's our most common way in the United States at home to make coffee is drip coffee, okay? Next, we have what we call a French press. And some of you may have seen that before, but a French press is like this. So we have our coffee inside the bottom, and we have a little filter on the top that we push down or press down, and that is what we call a French press. And you can make your coffee from there, and you see we have usually our ground coffee in the bottom of it. So that is a French press. Excellent. So some people have used a French press before. That's great. So another way we use is called a pour over, okay? And a pour over is something that sits on top of our cup, right? And we have our filter on top and we pour hot water over the coffee. And that is one way we use it. We call it pour over. So all of this type of coffee, we're just using the ground beans, right? We're just using ground beans and there's no espresso involved. Yes, drip coffee is very convenient. Good, okay? Another form of coffee that you may or may not have seen before is called a Chemex. And that's this, all right? So for a Chemex, it's going to be very similar to a pour over, but larger. So you're going to put your filter in here like this, and your beans, and you're going to pour your hot water all inside of it, okay? And your coffee is going to drip down into this big bowl here. So this is called a Chemex. Okay? Yes, I do have all of them. I love coffee. So this is a Chemex. So that will, this is often a more involved process, not like a drip coffee where you can just put it in there and let it go. So it's a little bit more involved. So these are some of our different ways. And then the last way is called espresso, right? And all of you, I'm sure, have heard of espresso before. So espresso is that more condensed, different type of bean that everyone likes a lot that you can make. Well, we'll go on here like lattes, cappuccinos. So that's called espresso. But one thing you might not know is that espresso, when you're making espresso, you call it pulling a shot. Okay. So when you have the device that you put the coffee into and you pound it down and you put it in there and you see it dripping out the sides, that's called pulling a shot. Okay, so you pull a shot of espresso. Okay, so these are all the common ways to make coffee that people make them. Chemex is usually not as common, but I like to make Chemex coffee a lot. So I thought I would show you all what a Chemex coffee system looks like as well. So there's a couple of different types of common ways we drink. Yes, I do like tea as well. I drink a lot of tea as well. I really like green tea. It's very tasty in the afternoon because I don't drink much coffee after the morning because otherwise I get too excited. So I drink a lot of green tea in the afternoon, lower caffeine. Okay, so the different types of coffee that we talk about, right? We have whole bean. So this, right, these beans that we were talking about, this is called whole bean coffee. So if you drink coffee in the United States and you're looking for just to buy some coffee, this is going to be whole bean coffee. You'll get coffee like this. Then or you can buy it in the United States also as ground coffee. So you'll take this coffee and they grind it up with what we call a grinder. There's a couple of different types of grinders, but you can grind your coffee up into a powder. And that's called ground coffee. And that is what you would put in the bottom of, say, a French press. You'd put your ground coffee in there. You can't use whole bean coffee to make coffee, right? You need to grind it up because otherwise you won't be able to bring out the different nutrients and caffeine and flavors and tastes, right? You need all of that in ground coffee. And then another very popular way to make coffee in the United States is what we call instant coffee. So instant coffee is where you just pour the coffee into a cup and hot water, and you just mix it up. There's no brewing, right? There's no brew process, right? So when you're making coffee, it's called brewing it because you're filtering water through the coffee. With instant coffee, no, don't need to do that at all. All you have to do is just pour the coffee in there, pour hot water, mix it up, and drink it. That's instant coffee. So two other common, very common, I'm sure they're common in your places where you live as well, is iced coffee and cold brew. But these are made two different ways. So iced coffee is something like this coffee with ice in it. It's just cold. Cold brew, if you order cold brew, there's a lot more caffeine in it, right? A lot more caffeine. And cold brew is made overnight. So you would put the coffee in cold water and let it sit overnight, and then you have coffee in the morning, right? It's usually 12 hours it takes for cold brew, but there's a lot more caffeine in it. So if you order a cold brew, just beware, there's a lot of caffeine in that. So it's different than iced coffee. Iced coffee and cold brew are different. Okay, so these are our different types of ways to make coffee, right? But in English, as you might know, we use lots of words. We borrow lots of words from other languages to talk about our coffee. So in the United States, the person who serves you coffee, we call them a barista, right? We take that word and we call them a barista. So that is what we do. We borrow that word from, I believe it's Italian, and we call them a barista. So we also use the same words for our drinks that we talk about. We use latte, right? Lattes are very, very popular in the United States. Lots of lattes. Cappuccino, macchiato, those are all served here. We use the same word. Americano, right? That's just espresso and hot water. That's an Americano, okay? Cortado. Does anyone have a cortado before? Just a small 1 ounce drop of espresso plus 1 ounce of milk. right? Yep, they're all Italian words. Exactly. We use the Italian words in America to talk about the same types of drinks. Espresso, right? You can order an espresso. If you come here in America and you order an espresso, you'll just get that little tiny cup of coffee. A doppio, right? We use the same doppio term. So these are all the same. So it's interesting how we take these words and we use them in the same context here in America. So barista, we just call that as a profession. Yep. Espresso is the same. No. So a good question. Espresso will not be the same as an Americano because an espresso will just be the little shot. An Americano, you will have a full cup. It'll be a big cup with hot water and espresso inside of it. So if you just want the little shot, that'll be an espresso. Or if you want a little bit longer one, a doppio. Or you can have a long espresso. It just depends on how you want to make it. But that is different than an Americano. An Americano will be a big, tall drink with 1 or 2 shots of that. I do not know Turkish coffee very well. I have had Turkish coffee before. One of my favorite restaurants that I used to go to was a Turkish restaurant, and they have delicious coffee. It's a lot stronger, more full-bodied coffee. Turkish coffee is. It's very, very good. I usually put no milk in my Turkish coffee. So how do you like your coffee? Okay. So when you're ordering coffee in the United States, they give you a lot of different options of how to order your coffee. So if you like your coffee, what they call a black coffee, right? That's with no milk, no sugar, nothing in it, just coffee like this. So see that dark brown flavor, the brown color? That's called black coffee. And you can put that in your coffee cup and just drink that without anything in it. So if I pour some more in here, it gets darker. But that still isn't black coffee yet because I have cream in here. So it's not black coffee. But you can like your coffee with milk. So there's 3 often ways that we provide coffee, right? It's with milk, cream, or a milk substitute. A milk substitute. So, for example, cream, right, is heavy. It's heavy and you just put it in your coffee. You don't just drink cream by itself. So milk, though, right? Milk that comes in the big gallon jug, that is so if they say milk, you can have whole milk, or what they'll often provide is 2% milk. 2 different types of milk. Whole milk is a lot thicker and richer. 2% is a little bit less thinner and not as thick as whole milk. So it's a little bit more water added. And then sugar, yes, sugar is always offered. I don't drink sugar in my coffee. I like it with just milk or black. Those are the only ways I usually drink my coffee. But sugar is good if you're having like a fun summery drink as well. So, and then when you're ordering milk, oftentimes they'll ask you what kind of milk. And what they're asking you is, do you want whole milk? Do you want 2% milk? Do you want soy milk? Do you want oat milk? They have different types of hemp milk. There's lots of different milk substitutes that people use. Okay? We use a lot of different types of substitutes in your coffee. So when you're ordering coffee in America, they may ask you what kind of milk. And that is asking what is your favorite type, what's your preferred milk in your coffee. So if you are lactose intolerant, meaning that you can't drink cow's milk, which is a lot of people in America who are lactose intolerant, so they cannot have any cow's milk, they often will drink soy milk or oat milk. So if you're ordering coffee and they ask you that, that's what they're trying to ask you for. And it's also very common in America for people to use syrup, okay? Pumps of syrup in their coffee. So they'll get a pump of vanilla or a pump of hazelnut or different lavender. You can do different things like that in your coffee, right? So that is Very common as well. They'll say, oh, would you like a pump? Or how many pumps of vanilla? And then you can tell them how many you would like in your cup of coffee. So, oh, I see that people talk about honey in their coffee. I have never tried that. That is not as common in America to have honey in your coffee, but it sounds very good. Do I like black coffee? I do like black coffee. I will often drink black coffee, especially if it's a nice pour over. I usually don't put any cream in a pour over because it's very concentrated and delicious. Okay. So okay, great. If you want to order and you want to put oat milk instead of milk in your coffee, that's a good question. So the way you would do that is you would ask for your coffee and you say, can I have that with oat milk instead? You can do the same thing with a latte or a cappuccino or any of these drinks over here that include milk traditionally. You would just ask them in America and say, could I have an oat milk latte? Right? That would be an oat milk latte. Yes. And then I also see a question about ordering at Starbucks. So that's very common here. The 3 sizes at Starbucks are tall. And you borrow another word here, grande, and then we borrow another word, venti, right? So we borrow all 3 of them, other than tall, we borrow all of those words at Starbucks to order your drink. Tall being the smallest, grande, not the biggest, just medium, and then venti as the tallest. Excuse me. So those are the different sizes at Starbucks. Good question. I thought that might come up because Starbucks has its very own ordering system. Other coffee shops in America are not, they don't use that system. They would just say small, medium, large. Or they will give you the size, right? The amount in there. So in America, we use ounces. So you could say, do you want an 8 ounce, a 16 ounce, or a 20 ounce? Those would be the 3 different sizes. But yes, tall should be the larger one, but tall is the shortest. Tall is the shortest, grande is the medium, venti is the tallest. Good. Okay. So let's look at some common phrases, right? So now we have some of the vocabulary of what we're talking about when we're talking about coffee, but let's talk about some common phrases and what that means in America, okay? So the first phrase, would you like room, okay? So if I say, would you like room in your coffee, that means they want to know if you want room for cream or milk or sugar in your coffee. So if they say, if I say, I would like a iced coffee, please, they would say, would you like room? That would be what they're asking for. Do you want room for coffee or cream? Okay, that's what they're asking you for. Yes, room. Room is what they're asking for. Do you want room in your coffee? Because otherwise, they'll fill your coffee all the way to the top. So there's no room for that. And to answer the question earlier, my favorite type of coffee is cold brew. Cold brew is my favorite type of coffee. But yes, room, that's what we're asking for. Do you want room? Okay. Another thing they say is, do you want it hot or iced? Right? Hot or iced. Because that is usually if you say, I would like a coffee, do you want hot coffee or iced coffee? Okay. That is what you ask for. So when you ask for room, though, just be aware if you want black coffee, they won't fill it all the way up to the top so that you can't drink it, but they will fill it up enough so that you won't have room to put any cream in it. Okay. Hot or iced. The next we have, okay, they would say, what kind of milk? So when you order your coffee and say, I would like a coffee with milk, they would say, what kind of milk do they want? That's what they're asking you to do. Okay. What type of milk are you wanting in your coffee? Do you want regular milk, 2% oat, soy? Okay. Another common phrase is, would you like it black? So black coffee, remember, right, is coffee with no cream or sugar or anything in it. Black coffee has nothing else in it. And so if they're asking you if you'd like coffee that way, they want nothing else there, okay? What size, right? When they ask you, when you order your coffee, they often say, what size do you want? Okay? Do you want a tall? Do you want a grande? Do you want a venti, right? Just know what sizes you want to order. And that's often a question they'll ask you, okay? What's the name? So they'll often say, what's the name? So when you're ordering coffee, especially at most coffee shops, most cafes, they will ask for your name because they will say your name out when your coffee is ready. So if you say, I would like a latte, please, right? A latte with regular milk. Well, they would say, well, what's the name? What name is it under? And I would say, Greg. And then when it's ready, they'll say, order for Greg, right? They'll say, order for Greg, and then I will know to come up and grab my coffee. So that's how they do it at most coffee shops in the United States. They will just shout your name out, and you'll come and grab your coffee, right? So whenever they're asking what's the name, they want to know what your name is, okay? So you can give them any name you want, but you'll have to remember so you can go get your coffee. Another question they'll ask you is cream or sugar, all right? Cream or sugar. They'll ask you whether you want cream or sugar in your coffee, and you can say yes or no. If you say yes, you'll get both cream and sugar. And then lastly, they'll say, how many shots? So if you ask for a latte, they might ask you, okay, what milk do you want? What kind of milk? And how many shots? So when they're asking shots, that's shots of espresso, right? They'll say, I want 1 shot of espresso. I want 2 shots of espresso. I'm really, really tired and I want 3 shots of espresso, right? You can ask for that when you're ordering. That's a common phrase to use while you're ordering. How many shots? 3 shots, right? Or no sugar. I want 1 shot. That's what you have to. That's really common phrases when you're ordering, right? Common phrases when you're ordering. So let's go through a quick scenario, okay? Let's say this is a very common interaction when we're ordering coffee. Okay, you go up to the barista, right? The person at the front of the cash register, and she says, "Hi, what can I get you?" And you would say, "Oh, I would like a drip coffee, please." Right? I'd like a drip coffee. That's just a regular coffee that drips down, right, through the filter into a pot. It's a much larger process. You can make lots of coffee for one person. Okay? So I would like a drip coffee, please. Then the barista would ask, would you like room for cream? Well, I like cream in my coffee. So I would say, yes, I would like whole milk, right? I would say what kind of milk I would like. And that will pour the milk in there for me, right? If I say I like whole milk, okay? And say, well, what name should I put it under? And I would say, Greg, right? What name is it under? It's under my name. I would say Greg. And they would say, thank you. We will call you when it's ready. So they'll just call out my name and I will go pick up my coffee. And that's how you would order a coffee in the United States. Okay. Oftentimes when you're ordering, if you order like a drip or something, they might just hand it to you right then. Or they'll have milk and sugar and cream and all of that on a separate table. So you'll take your coffee, you can walk over to that separate table and then pour your own milk or your own cream or your own sugar. You can put as much or as little as you want. So the baristas may not do it for you. So that's a very common thing in the United States, to have a little side area where you go and pour your own coffee, or where you pour your own drip cream and all that kind of things like that. So that's how you would order a cup of coffee in the United States. So For a quick review, let's talk about how we get coffee, right? We get coffee at home. We have coffee at cafes or shops. We get it at roasteries, right, where they roast the beans themselves. We have a chain store, right? We have a gas station or fast food restaurant. Our common ways to drink coffee, right? We have whole bean, ground, instant, iced coffee, cold brew, all different types. So we have drip, French press, pour over, Chemex, espresso. Those are all different ways to make coffee. I see a question here talking about what are the difference between them, okay? So a latte, right? A latte is going to be a shot of espresso with a lot of milk, right? You're gonna froth the milk, and you're gonna pour it on top. And it's going to be a shot or two, and then a good amount of milk, and then froth on top. A cappuccino is just going to be the frothed milk on top of a shot. A macchiato is going to be cream in the coffee and just a shot of espresso. An Americano, right? That's only going to have ice. It's only going to have hot water and espresso. And a cortado is like a small one, like a small latte, where they have 1 ounce of espresso and then 1 ounce of steamed coffee. So they're going to be different. They're going to be different types of usually how much milk you have. So these are all latte, cappuccino, macchiato, Americano, cortado are all going to have espresso shots in them, but the difference is going to be how much milk is in all of them. That's a good question. And then the other question is, what is a barista? Well, a barista is the person who makes the coffee for you. They're the ones making the coffee and giving it to you. That's a good question. That's a barista. It's similar to a server. A server, if you're in a restaurant, right? A barista is the same thing. They just make coffee. And then iced coffee. Iced coffee is regular coffee, like a drip coffee, but it's cold. It's chilled with ice in it, right? It's chilled with ice in it. It's made in the same process, right? So if I were to take this coffee, right, that I made in my French press and cool it with ice, that would be iced coffee. Different than cold brew. Cold brew, you make it overnight with cold water, and it brings out all of the tastes. So it's a lot more caffeine in a cold brew. Okay, so just so everyone remembers, right, this is called a mug, a coffee mug. M-U-G. That's how we drink our coffee. We drink it in a coffee mug, okay? So that's usually the way that you drink your hot coffee all the time is in a mug. And it's very common in America for people to have lots of coffee mugs. They're very popular gifts. They're very popular to have for different seasons. So lots of people have, especially coffee drinkers, have lots of different coffee mugs. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was a fun lesson. I hope you learned a little bit about coffee. I hope you learned a little bit about the coffee culture in America. And I hope you get to go out and enjoy some coffee yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, if you are new to Cambly, you can use Go Live as a coupon for up to 36% off year-long subscriptions. Cambly is a wonderful way to practice your English. It is perfect if you're just starting, perfect if you are, intermediary or learning lots about coffee right now, learning if you're very competent in English and you're practicing for the IELTS or things like that. The Cambly platform is perfect for that. There's hundreds of tutors from all parts of the world, not just America, Europe, Canada, all English-speaking places, Australia, and they can help you with any type of lesson you're looking for. So I hope you join. I hope you get a lot out of this. If you missed any of this video or you need any other help, we have hundreds of videos on the Cambly YouTube live channel, just the Cambly channel in general. Go to the Go Live and you can see this one and tons of other ones. So it is great to see you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.